Hi, I'm Natalie Higgins, and you're watching NDE Talk. Today's guest, Jodie O'Meara, at just 26 weeks started showing signs of HELP syndrome as a result of pre eclampsia. This would soon start Jodie's organs to shut down. Today, we're going to find out about Jodie's near-death experience. However, if you guys stick right through to the end, Jodie would also like to share with you some other experience that she encountered during this time. Without further ado, I welcome you, Jodie.
Okay, so back in 2009, basically I was pregnant with my daughter, and this is where my NDE basically happened. So I was pregnant with my daughter, I was 24 weeks, and I presented with pre eclampsia, and that's quite unusual at 24 weeks. So they pop me into hospital and basically tell you you're going to have a premature baby. It's just a balancing act of how long they keep the baby inside you and keep you well at the same time. So the mother is only going to get better once the baby's taken out. So I kind of, because I was so naive, it was my first child, I just went with it all a little bit and kind of didn't really understand fully how serious it all was. I thought I was going to be in hospital from 24 weeks right through to the end, and I was a bit depressed about that. But I was more upset about that. But well, obviously I wasn't. So at 26 weeks, they took the baby out, and I'm just sort of leading up to that. Spiritual things were starting to happen because I was getting sicker and sicker. And I was presenting with, with preeclampsia, I blew up like you just bloat something chronic, and you get really bad headaches, and you can't keep things like the pills and the tablets down that they're giving me for my blood pressure and things like that. So
Sorry to interrupt, but preeclampsia, is that like when the blood pressure rises
and protein in your urine and your body retains a whole lot of fluid. And so basically what's happening is your DNA or your genetics is rejecting, it thinks the baby's a foreign body because it doesn't recognize the DNA. And so it starts to attack the body basically attack itself to get rid of it. And then the only way to get the mum well is to get the baby out. And preeclampsia normally comes on a lot later in the pregnancy or even during birth. And afterwards. So this was quite unusual, and they couldn't understand why I was presenting so early. So it's about keeping me quiet. I was in a room by myself and just trying to keep me calm and things like that. But I think it was so they kept taking me down to the birthing unit because each day they would sort of think we might take the baby out today, and then they would take me back up if they decided not to. And one night I was on the ward and I was asleep, and I woke up and I just thought, I don't know how to, it was like a knowing, and I saw a shadow person. So when I see spirit, there's shadow people. And so it's like seeing your shadow. You know how you see your own shadow? It's kind of like that, but not as dense. It's sort of grainier. And so I saw this shadow standing beside my bed, and I just popped into my head, oh, it's Eleanor. So Eleanor is my great aunt, and I never met her, but I'd heard about her, and I'd seen a photo of her, and I'd always thought she was amazing, and that if we'd got to meet, we would have got on really well because we had a lot of interests that were the same, with antiques and all sorts of things and old worldly stuff. So and I just thought, oh, it's Eleanor, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of calm, like I just knew everything was going to be fine, and that wasn't that, I wasn't going to die or that I was going to live or whatever, but just that everything would be fine. There was just this overwhelming feeling of peace and acceptance. So as things went along and I started getting even sicker, they took me down to the birthing unit, and I started to have really bad pains in my right-hand side where my liver is. And it got very hard, and I was in a lot of pain, like it was excruciating, and it started to transfer up my back and up my neck. So the midwife at the time said to me, I think we really need to get this baby out. But they were sort of fighting between themselves, the staff, as to how long to keep the baby in and all that sort of stuff. So it was all a bit dramatic. But anyway, and so they decided the next day to take the baby. And I was completely calm through everything. So everything they were doing, anything they said, I was just very accepting, very calm. Everything was fine. While everybody else around me was sort of getting quite panicky and quite upset. So they took me into the emergency room, and the surgeon, prepped me, and I couldn't get the epidural in by sitting up. Normally a woman can get it by sitting up, but I couldn't sit up. I was in so much pain. So they did it while I was lying down, and that took ages. And then finally they got it in. And so I'm lying there and I'm all relaxed. Literally, I was like, it was like I was on a day at the beach.
I was going to say, like, how are you so relaxed?
I don't know. That's the thing. And they kept saying that, the doctors kept saying that to me. I can't believe how relaxed you are. You're just so, yeah. And so then when they opened me up and they took Evelyn, my daughter, out, I just had this weird feeling that things were going to go haywire. I can't describe it. I had this funny feeling. And they said to me, would you like your husband to go with your daughter, or would you like him to stay with you? And I said, I think he should go with my daughter. So literally, I remember seeing his leg go out the door. Next minute, the whole room filled up with all these doctors. And there's all this whispering going on. And I could see when she had opened me up, she'd said to the other doctors, there's old blood in here. And so meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, they'd rung an emergency liver surgeon. And so what had basically happened, it's like when you go in a car accident and the impact, you get internal bleeding. So that's the same thing. So my liver had basically had that same effect, and so it was bleeding out into my belly, and had been for some time. So later on, when you get to piece all these things together and talk to staff and things like that, they basically said I had 6 hours, another 6 hours, and I would have been toast.
Wow.
So you don't get to find that out until a lot later, because they don't really want to admit that they've left you too long. For obvious reasons, which is cool. But so then the surgeon came in, and it all got a bit rough because they said they had to cut me up further. Was that okay? And I was like, yeah. That's fine. And I was like, what can I do? I can't do anything, but you just go ahead or do what you need to do. And so it was really rough, because he was packing me with gauze and things. It was really rough. So in the end, I said to them, I think I've had enough, and I think you can put me out now. So they were like, yeah, we'll put you out. And honestly, literally, that's how I said it. I literally said, I think I've had enough. You can just put me out now.
Wow.
And so I got put out. And this is the part that kind of, I don't know how to describe this part. So the next thing I remember is waking up in ICU with the tube down my throat and being a bit distressed by that and pulling the tube out. But I have a lot of memories that are sort of, I can't quite piece them together as the time frame. But one of the memories that I have is seeing my parents standing by the bed and feeling, I can't even describe, like this huge amount of love for them and wanting to give it to them. Like I really badly wanted to give this love that I was feeling. I wanted them, so I was trying to sort of push it onto them, if you know, like waves, I was trying to, and as far as I was concerned, I wasn't speaking to them. But my mother later told me that I was saying, everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. It's all fine. Jesus is here. Jesus is here. And my mum thought, oh, she must be on some good drugs. And I don't remember saying that. I do not remember saying that. I just remember feeling this love for them and wanting them to feel good and feel okay and them to be okay. So then I remember basically, I remember someone being with me, and I remember being in a void, what I call the void. I've heard other people call it this too. So for me, it was black, but it wasn't that horrible sort of dense black, like a night black sky. It was this sort of soft, charcoaly black, and
Yeah.
with a little bit of sort of a bit like the Milky Way, sort of misty, and a few sprinkling of stars sort of way off in the distance, and maybe a slight little bit of pink.
Yeah.
So I knew someone was with me. I knew they were male. Don't ask me how, I just did. And I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. And I felt really good, like really good, really relaxed, just floaty, really floaty.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who's also a little bit sensitive, but we'd never really talked about it, unbeknownst to me, this is all stuff I've pieced together from talking to people, is she said that I came to her and that I was hovering above her and I was smiling at her. And she sat,
Wow.
and she sat up in bed and said to her husband, "Oh my God, I think Jodie's dead. I think Jodie's died." And he said, "Oh, you better ring her mum and find out what the hell's going on." So I do think this was around that time. So yeah, it's really interesting that I traveled to see someone.
Yeah,
And
sorry, my
yeah.
jaws just fell on the floor. I need to pick it up. That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting too. And I think for me personally, you know, some people, they get that clinical knowledge from the medical staff that they actually died, whereas for me, I didn't. One, because they didn't really want to tell me. So there's sort of a did I or didn't I, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I definitely came as close as it gets. And I have a photograph of myself, and I have that same color to my skin that people have when they're dying. It's like
Yeah.
a funny gray pallor to their skin, who when they've sort of, yeah. So, and I had to have huge amounts of blood. I had about 19 units of blood transferred into me. I lost a lot of blood, and yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes I've also heard these stories, because you said you came pretty close.
Yeah.
Some people go through so much trauma that they leave their body because
Yeah.
they can't physically handle it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's definitely, yeah, that feels right. That feels really right too. I mean, not, you know, these things with the NDEs, you can't explain everything. We can't
Yeah.
answer everybody's question that they have about NDEs. You know, they want us to prove things, and they want to prove that we were clinically dead and all this sort of stuff, but we can't prove everything.
Do you know what I think though? And sorry to cut you off.
No, you go for it.
I just think if you don't believe it, you're bonkers, because everybody's experiencing this void and this
Yeah.
consciousness and this knowing, like
Yeah.
what
There's
more
so
evidence do
many
you need?
similarities, isn't there? There's so many
Yeah.
similarities. There's lots of differences too,
Mm.
because we're all unique, and that's what I believe. You know, we're all unique souls, so of course, we're going to have a different experience compared to the next person. But there's always those little similarities, and the void is one of those. And you know, a lot of this I didn't have the language for back then. I didn't
Yeah.
understand where I'd been. I could only describe it. This is stuff I've learnt, you know, over the last years, from just doing research and being
Yeah.
curious and talking to people who've had them as well, and going, oh my God, that's what I experienced as
It's
well.
almost like you're reborn in a way and you're just learning
Yeah.
again, right?
Yeah, you do. It's a whole other language. It's absolutely a whole other language. And I think, you know, so I was floating there with Jesus. I knew it was Jesus. Well, to me, it was Jesus, or it could have been God. I don't know. But to me, in my mind, it was Jesus. And that's what I kept saying. So,
Yeah.
and when I awoke and had an experience when I woke up, that was Jesus as far as I was concerned. So the biggest thing that people are always shocked by, and I get a lot of questions about this, is I am not religious. And I'm still not religious. Even though I believe I've met Jesus, I'm not religious. But I do believe I met Jesus. I do believe that in Jesus, as a person that was a ascended master and came with this beautiful philosophy, which was spread across the earth, and everybody kind of put their own interpretations on it, and all that sort of stuff happened. But to me, he's more like a friend and a brotherly figure, or a paternal figure. That's how he feels to me. And I don't see him as the sensationalized version that other people do. So I don't feel that way. And I never got that sense from him that I had to fall down on my knees and suddenly kind of, accept him as my savior and all those things. It wasn't like that. It was very nurturing, like your father kind of helping you and embracing you and just making you feel better because you've fallen over and hurt yourself or something. You know what I mean? It was kind of like that sort of feel.
Like unconditional love, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, the love was just, and it was like it sounds funny because you're a consciousness, but it felt warm. It felt really warm and really nice. And there was no fear whatsoever. I didn't feel any fear. And he just hung out to my left. He was on my left-hand side. I remember that. And I don't remember his voice. I don't remember. I remember like an impression in my mind's eye of what he looked like.
Oh, okay.
So he was quite Middle Eastern looking. And yeah, just, I don't know. I don't really know.
Here's a good question. Do you remember if he had long hair, short hair?
Yeah, I don't remember him having the beard. I don't remember that. No, none of that long hair and all that sort of stuff. More sort of slightly long but shorter, if you know what I mean, like sort of messy.
Yeah, just kind of like grown
flicky.
out.
Just kind of a grown out shag type. yeah. Not as bad as a mullet, but sorry, anybody who's got a mullet. But
Jesus has got style.
yeah, he's pretty lovely. But then he showed me my husband and my daughter, and he showed me their life. So in pictures, it was like watching a movie of what their life would be like without me if I wasn't in it. And I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel upset. It was this all-knowing feeling that was just how it would be. And
can I ask you, have you heard of Peggy Robinson?
No.
Oh, she had an NDE as well, and she's had a similar encounter as you have, and you're literally explaining everything she is.
Really?
I gotta introduce you to her. You girls need to talk.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that. So I just it was beautiful. I just watched, and obviously they weren't, it wasn't all going to be easy. It wasn't all going to be wonderful and marvelous for them. They were going to go through their trials and tribulations. But it would just be a different life experience without me in it. And that was okay. There was a feeling of that's okay. It's just different. It's not bad or good. There was no sort of attachment to it of being a tragedy or sort of really awful. It was just, that's a different life experience. They can either have that or they can have you in it, so to speak, So I did not get a choice to come back. I didn't ask. Didn't plead. There was no, do you want to stay or go, or no, it's not your time or anything like that. I just suddenly woke up and I was back in my body. Wow. And I do remember at different times throughout in ICU, a feeling of not being quite tethered to my body, sort of a feeling of, whereas some people talk about themselves being high on the ceiling, it wasn't like that for me. It was closer. I was closer to my body, but I wasn't quite in my body. It's a sort of a bit, So with that, I started to have experiences of the people around me. And I started to experience, there was a baby on my left who was very, very sick and gravelly, like she obviously had breathing issues. I knew she was going to live. I knew she was going to be fine. And then there was a guy on my right, and he was, in New Zealand, we have, Indigenous culture is Maori, and he was a Maori man, and his family were with him. But for me, I was experiencing his ancestors. So I could see all these shadow people, like masses of them, like going, I just can't even describe it. And it was like it was still in the void. So I could just see them all lining up and gathering around him. And the feeling was very dense and very sorrowful and kind of resigned. And it felt uncomfortable for me because I was going through, a lot of trauma, and I was, having these weird experiences, and I was sort of like, what is this? Because it felt denser. And now that I know what I know, I'm like, oh, so that was his ancestors coming to meet him and collect him. But the feeling was, and I've had this feeling before with spirit who are tormented or have been a difficult person in life, they have a denser feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. And people who haven't experienced this probably won't get it. But if you're sensitive, you can go into spaces and places and you'll just feel like something's really doesn't feel good.
I get that.
And you just feel really uncomfortable, and you feel like this sort of heavy, and that's why I call it a dense feeling. So you just feel like something is not right, it's wrong, something feels very wrong here, and you want to get out of there as fast as possible. Usually, yeah. And sometimes you'll get it even darker, so you'll feel like, ooh, there's something really, really not nice here. And so there's different levels of it. So this for me was obviously, this guy for me had not been a very good person in life. And the feeling from his ancestors were that he was going to go through some sort of process or some sort of, I don't know, I call it an atonement, but I sort of felt like it was more of a loving process, that they were coming to collect him, and they felt sad and resigned that he was going to have to go through this process, and it was going to be hard for him to come to grips with who he had been and how he had behaved and how he had treated people and things like, it wasn't going to be easy for him.
I've heard about life reviews. So, the amount of trauma you put onto people, when you have your life review, you experience what you did to them, but how they felt what you were doing to them. So you feel their emotions. So it's like he's going to feel all of that. And that's sadness, right?
But the beautiful thing is you are caretaken through that. So so his ancestors had come to help him go through that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So there's an understanding, I feel. I mean, obviously there are really bad people out there. I don't know like how that's all processed, but this is what I felt with this guy. And I felt it with a few others since as well, is that there's this understanding and a sort of it's a loving thing, it's a growth thing for them, or an expansion for them that they go through. Yeah. Yeah. So that was that. And then, well, I found I sounded really Kiwi then, didn't I?
I love your accent. I just have
it
to
was
say
really
that.
Funny. Then, what else happened?
Moving on.
Moving on, but because you've only got an hour.
I love
it. So by now, I'm sort of woken up in the bed and I'm flat on my back and various things are happening. And I felt like I was hit by a bus, honestly. It was just, and I felt like my stomach was still open. And later on I found out that it actually was because they have to keep it open a bit, so that because they go in and out to pack your liver, and then they check that it stopped bleeding, and then they have to put a lining over it like Glad wrap to make it sealed again and heal and all that. So they go in and out, in and out, in and out. So I was in there for 5 days, and I really did. I thought if I looked down that I'd see my stomach all open. That's how it felt to me.
Wow.
And then I don't know how many days this was. I have no recollection sort of timing, but I just remember my husband was sitting next to me and he was reading a book. And I was lying there and I said to him, I just felt this person come in, and I said to him, oh, there's a woman here. There's a woman here. And he said, no, Jodie, there's no one here. And I said, yeah, there's a woman here. And then I felt the depression, when someone sits on your bedside, sits down on your bed and you're in bed. I felt that. And I said, oh, yeah, she's just sat on the bed. And he said, no, there's no one there, Jodie. And I said, yeah. And then I felt her touch my tummy. I knew it was a her. I don't know why. I just knew she was a female. And I felt her touch my tummy. I didn't know her. I don't recall who she, because sometimes you have a knowing of who it is. But, when someone touches your tummy, like they just sort of go, like just really lightly, and you just feel it lightly. So that's how it felt. And then it felt like a pond. So it just was like this spreading like a ripple in a pond, in a
Yeah,
pond
like an
going outwards.
expanding.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
whoosh, and it felt all cool and really nice. Gosh, it felt so good on my stomach. So I think that that was a healing. And then I could feel that something was coming. This is the only way I can describe it. I knew something big was coming. Like it just was the energy was so profound. And it was at the very foot of my bed. And it came, and next, I think my poor husband, I said to him, "Oh, Jesus is here." And he went, No, Jodie, there's no one here." I said, Yes, Jesus is here. He's here. And he was going, No, Jodie, there's no one here. And it just was like a wave, like, a massive big wave. And it just, this love of like all the love in the world. It was like love on steroids. It was incredible. And it just went boof over the top of me. And it's just incredible. I've never felt anything like it. It was amazing.
I just
And
got the goosebumps,
I know, me
powerhouse.
too. Look, I'm having it. Me
Right.
too. Yeah. And like, oh my God. And I just couldn't, like, and here's me going, it's Jesus is here. And I'm just not that sort of person. Yeah, absolutely not. And my poor husband's going, no. So sort of later on, as life went on, I sort of talked a bit about it in the hospital with people. Like I told my mum and dad, and that's when my mum said, "Oh, that's interesting, because you were talking about Jesus when we came to see you in ICU. You were saying he was there." And I said, "Oh, I don't remember saying that." And she said, "I just thought it was some good drugs you were on, but now, obviously you're still talking about it." And so I didn't talk about it too much with anyone outside of my family, my immediate family circle. And I was only allowed my mum and dad and my husband, and basically no one else was allowed to visit me for quite some time. And then sort of over the years, various things started happening, and I sort of talked to a couple of people, and I got closed down pretty quick. People didn't like it.
Yeah.
They just sort of put it down to drugs, and didn't really like it. Then a bit later on, when I was in the hospital with my daughter, she had 2 hernias, and so she had an operation on them. There was a social worker there, and I mentioned it to her and the nurse. I said I had these really weird experiences in ICU, and she said, "Oh, can you tell us about it?" And I told them, and they were like, "Oh, we've heard of these stories a lot. People tell
Yeah.
these stories a lot." So I can't even, because it's been so long now, but I can't even remember when things first started happening. But previous to my near-death experience, I'd had spiritual experiences, but I'd put it down to just, I don't know what I put it down to tell you the honest truth. I knew I had a bit of a sensitivity. I was always sensitive as a child to environments and going into people's homes and feeling
Yeah.
uncomfortable, or feeling the vibe of something and just not wanting to be there. Or I'd have sleepovers and in the middle of the night want to go home.
Yeah.
Things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, my poor mother, she'd have to come and collect me. And
No.
I just couldn't, and I was always scared in my bedroom, and I saw things and sort of felt things. And my parents used to, I had a imaginary friend, and my parents used to sort of indulge me a little bit, but kind of shut it down as well. And so I learned really quickly, this is not normal, you don't talk about this stuff. So when things happened, I sort of learned to kind of just go, "Oh, that was weird." As you
Yeah.
do, oh, that's a bit weird. Maybe it's just me. I'm just a bit,
Yeah, right.
neurotic or something. Yeah. And so I just kind of lived life like that. And I was always that person that people would come to and confide in. Yeah, always that person that people came to right from young. And my friends would all come to me. And sometimes I would say really profound stuff for my age, or I'd say weird stuff. And I can't remember a lot of it. So I've had people come back to me and say, "Do you remember when you said this, Jodie?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. Did I say that?" So, you know what I mean? I had things like that happening. I'd had a few little spiritual experiences, gone to places and had a bit of a ghosty experience, but nothing that I really kind of thought, "Oh, I can do this," or anything like that. So after my NDE, I basically started having some really full-on things happening.
Yeah.
And the first one, they all started off in dreams. So they'd always come to me in a dream, and the dream looked like the new TVs that you get now, really amazing color, like they just had a difference to them. And I would know, and I would be quite conscious in the dream. That's a key thing, is I've always been quite conscious that I was dreaming, or that I was having some sort of experience, like there was something different about it. Yeah, the first one blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. And afterwards, when you get a visitation, you've got this compulsion. You have to tell the person that it's for. It will not leave you alone. It's this, and so there's a lot of fear in that when you first start out, because, well, like when these things first start happening, because what are people going to think of you? They're going to think you're crazy. They're going, it's really, right. You're very vulnerable in those positions, being put in that position. So they sort of slowly got me used to it through people that I had met somehow. So I didn't know them as such, but I had met them through someone, just to say hello. So the first person was the husband of a friend of mine that I worked with. And I only met him once, and just to literally say hi. And then he shot back out the door, and her and I just carried on out, having our day together. And I never met him again. And then the next one that happened after that was a girl. I met her when she was about 15. And I just literally, again, say hello, how are you, hi, and that was it. And she was related to me through marriage on my auntie's side, so down the, not very close to me at all. And so these sorts of things started happening. Just I knew the person somehow, and then it moved into people I didn't know and never met in my life. Wow. And that was mind-blowing. That was really mind-blowing. And the first one that was really mind-blowing in that way, I mean, they all were.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like my husband, I kept saying to my husband, can you believe this is happening to me? Oh my God.
You sound like me when I'm talking to my husband, when just hearing these stories. Oh, you got to listen to what I just about.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Because, you see these mediums on TV and you sort of think, oh man, that's amazing. But when it actually starts happening to you, you're like, oh my God, this stuff's real.
Yeah, that's
this
crazy.
Actually is real. Yeah, it's really, really crazy. And of course I thought, oh my God, people are going to think I'm crazy. But so it took a long time, because my family are not religious. If anything, my mum was an atheist. And so talking to her about this stuff, she felt very uncomfortable and she didn't like it. So for a really long time, I couldn't really talk to her about it too much. And so I just kind of shut down on it all. I was bringing up my daughter and she had a lot of needs. And so I just kind of let it go, if you know what I mean. And when I started having these types of visits, I would go and tell the person the message. And it took me all my confidence to do it. Like I had to really...
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh my God, it was so hard. It was the hardest thing, honestly.
Can you give us an example of so what would happen? Would you have a dream to where you would have to go speak to someone you don't know and tell them a message, and you find those people?
Yeah, so the first two, like I said, they were people that I'd known through someone else, just to say hello briefly once upon a time. And I'll talk about the second one because that was quite amazing. And I haven't talked about this one before. So this girl passed away when she was 32, and I'd heard through the grapevine of the family that she'd passed away. And I thought, oh, that's sad. That's really sad. And that's all I sort of thought. And then I had this dream, and in the dream it was quite dark, and I was following a car in front of me, and we had our headlights on, and I followed this car, and they drove up their driveway and I followed in behind. And when I got out of the car, there was a shadow man. I knew it was a man, and I knew he was a father. I knew that. And I gave him a big hug and I said, I'm so sorry for your loss. And he said, yeah, and he was really sad. And then I went up these stairs into a living room, which ended up being my auntie's living room.
Oh,
and
wow.
and my auntie was sitting on the chair, and I said, "Oh, hi, auntie, hi, auntie." And she said, "Oh, hi." And I said, "Oh, I can feel her all around me." And she said, "Yes, I can too." And I said, "Oh, and here she is." So this is how they eased me into it. So you
Yeah.
see, it was like a story. And then this girl walked in the room, and I couldn't see. So from the waist up, she was a shadow person, and from the waist down, I could see her legs, just like you and me. And she had on a nightie that came down to her knees, like a little t-shirt nightie. And then she had a toweling bathrobe on that was white, and it went down past that nightie, and it was open. And then in front of her, she was holding, and I could see her hands, just like you and me. She was holding this massive, big white coffee mug. Massive, it was huge. And so I said to my auntie, "Oh, and here she is now." And she walked in. And then over the top of the dream, I heard her name repeated, her nickname and her name over and over and over again. And then I woke up, and I was in my bed at home. It was the middle of the night. And I was like, "Who is this person?" Like, I didn't even remember her. I was like, "Who's this person? Who's this person?" And then I thought, "Oh my God, it's this girl." And I was like, "Oh no, how do I tell these people? How do I tell them this?" Oh my God, my phone's going.
It's like your dream. I'm trying to
It's
tell you
weird.
something.
That is so weird. It's going freaky. Anyway, yeah. So I was like, "Oh, how am I going to contact? I don't know these people. Like, they're my auntie's relatives on her married side that I have no relationship with." So I rang my auntie and I said, "Look, I've had this experience and I want to tell you about it, but I don't feel that I should come and tell these people this message. I think you should do it because you know them better than me.
Yeah.
So I'll relay the message and you go and tell them." So
Wow.
yeah, and then so when I was getting ready to go out and see my auntie and tell her what the message was, I was in the shower and I yelled out to my husband. I said to him, "Oh, we have to go out and buy a pink orchid. I have to buy a pink orchid and give them a pink orchid." Her father, I have to give her father a pink orchid. And my husband goes, "Okay." And I'm like, yeah, I've got it. It was really like so strong. And then I got out of the shower and I was sort of, getting ready. And then I went through to him and I said, "Oh, no, I don't have to buy one. It's a symbolic thing. She's trying to tell me that she wants, it's symbolic. It's not that I have to actually go out and buy one." But that's how strong those feelings are. Like, it's so powerful sometimes. And other times it's so wispy wafty. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So some are really strong spirits, and they can really communicate very, very strongly, and others not as strongly. I don't know why. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
And so I told my auntie, and when I caught up with her, this is the other thing that will happen, is as I start to give the message, more will come. So more of the message will come as I'm speaking it. So I told her, I said, "Oh, look, what I'd seen." And I said she was a shadow person from the stomach upwards. So like her torso and her head was shadow. I said, "Did she have mental health problems?" And she said, "Yes." And I went, and I don't even know why I said that. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
And it was just like a knowing, not a thinking it, like, I just suddenly said it. And then I said to her, "Oh, was she, did she get used a lot by men?" And she said,
Oh.
yes, she did. Yes, she did. And I said, "And they got her hooked on drugs?" And she said, "Yes, that's right." And I said, okay. And I sort of explained her personality and things like that. And I said, "Oh, this message is for her father. I'm really sorry, but it's not for her mother. It's only for her father." And she said, "Yeah, that makes sense. She was a real daddy's girl, real daddy's girl."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh," and she said she didn't have a great relationship with her mum. She was all about her dad. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I said, she wants to give him a pink orchid. And my auntie went, "Oh," and I was like, "What?" And she goes, "He grows orchids. Her father grows orchids and pink was her favorite.
Oh man, that's incredible.
And they put pink orchids all over her coffin and in her coffin with her.
Wow.
So that was the pink orchid. It was really
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's
Yeah.
those little things that gets
Yeah.
people's attention, so you know that it's
Yeah.
real, right?
That's right. Exactly. And it can be something that means nothing to you. Like
Yeah.
that pink orchid, I was like, I don't know why I'm thinking a pink orchid,
Yeah.
but it means something to, and it can be swearing, because that could be how the person spoke, and it was something the way they spoke. It can be things that to you feel off or strange, but it means a lot to the people who are receiving the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
If I can, I wanted
Hmm,
to bring it back to the near-death experience or the after
sure.
experience. What was it like for you being out there in consciousness, not aware of your body, to coming back into your body? What was that
Hmm.
like?
Your body feels heavy is the only way I can describe it. So it goes from feeling like really light and all knowing, like you just understand why everything is the way it is. Like there's this massive understanding of, well, that was what it was like for me. Um, I just knew why everything worked the way it did in life, in the world.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very nice. I didn't feel like I was in heaven, definitely not. I hadn't got to the other place or anything like that. But I just felt like I went somewhere really nice and I felt loved, and I felt very like home. It did feel very like coming home. It didn't, obviously, it wasn't what some people talk about going through the tunnel and all that sort of stuff, but it felt like that to me. And then when I came back to my body, like I described to you, feeling like I wasn't fully tethered to it and hovering above it, really,
Yeah.
really close, like really hovering above my body,
Yeah.
for a while there, and then coming into it. Yeah, it felt like being hit by a bus. So it felt like it was so heavy. But then I got used to it pretty quick. So you get used to it again pretty quick. Some people don't. I know I've read instances where people have just longed and pined to go back, just
Yeah.
don't feel like they fit here, um, really struggle being back. I have not felt that way. I've never felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
feel for those people.
yeah, so do I, really.
Yeah,
I have heard that as well. I
yeah,
have done some research for a few years on this. I'm so
yeah,
drawn to this topic. It's absolutely incredible.
yeah. It
And
is amazing, isn't it?
right, it
Yeah.
really is. And oh, there was something else I was going to ask you. I might have to put a pin in it because I can't remember what I was going to
That's
say.
okay.
But
I
yeah,
think there's something too when people who've had near-death experiences meet someone else who's had a near-death experience. There's just this sort of, I don't know, you can't stop smiling at each other.
yeah,
There's this
right.
sort of like, giddiness.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's really funny.
Well, it's because you all can relate. You've all been through it.
Yeah,
It's like meeting a friend who it's like, yeah, I get you.
yeah, absolutely. It's just like that. It totally is.
I just remembered. um, you said that you didn't get a choice.
No.
Did you
Mm.
do you know why some get a choice?
I have no idea why that happens. I
Yeah.
don't know. The only thing I can think of with me is I struggled with that for a really long time, and I struggled with why Jesus came to me, little old me, who doesn't go there, isn't into religion. It's not that I didn't believe necessarily in him as such, but I didn't believe in the sensationalized version. So and I didn't believe in, the whole savior thing and all that sort of stuff. So I struggled with that really.
Mm.
It was really difficult for me. And when I first started to admit to people that, Jesus was my guide, or I would giggle. I would sort of go, oh, Jesus, my guide, like, and kind of feel really awkward about it. It's still like I still sort of, but now I'm a lot more comfortable with it. But I do get, a lot of questions around it. But and I didn't even accept that I didn't even recognize him as my guide until someone told me, like a sensitive person told me, oh, you do realize Jesus is your guide. And I was like, oh,
That's
is that
awesome.
a thing? Can that be a thing? And he was like, yeah, he's a spiritual person. Yeah, he can be a guide. And I was like, oh, I thought he was too busy and too, you know what I mean, like to be a
I
guide.
just had a thought actually. So Jesus is your guide. Okay, so a lot of people get different guides, some I don't know all the names of the guides, but
Yeah,
I'm
there's
going with this.
loads of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone gets different names. Do you think that you might have Jesus and that you may have the ability to heal others like he did?
Yeah. I don't know about that.
I
I
just
think
I just
I think
wondered.
healing is, there's so many factors to healing.
Yeah.
Healing can be through touch, through love, through kindness, through just a smile on the street,
Right.
through just making someone's day by being really nice to them, having a laugh, having a giggle, that sort of thing, or just being there at the right time for them. And healing is just being around.
Yeah.
We're all healers by just being around the people we love and showing them love and being kind. But and having our own boundaries, don't get me wrong, and self-compassion and self-love is massive, and I'm a big advocate for self-compassion and self-love. It's huge.
It's good that you pointed that out because Jesus,
Yeah.
funny enough, he said in the Bible that
Did he?
love your neighbor like you love yourself. So to love
Uh,
yourself, you can't love others if you don't love yourself.
yeah,
So
well, because I've never read the Bible, so
yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
there you go. And I think too, like the experiences that I've had with Jesus since, people think that I've got some sort of, if he's my guide, I can give them messages and stuff like that, right? And they sort of get all excited. But and they think, oh, can you ask Jesus this? And can you ask? Well,
Awesome.
it doesn't quite work that way, unfortunately. Love it if it did, but I didn't know. And I'm not a guru. I don't know everything. I'm still figuring this stuff out myself. There's some stuff I struggle with, and some stuff I don't. I'm sort of getting better. I'm learning as I go. It's probably going to take me years, and that's normal. But yeah, so I came from a family who, for want of a better way of describing it, we used to make fun. People were allowed to believe what they believe, and we were very accepting and non-judgmental in that way. Like, we would never make them feel bad or put them down or anything. But behind closed doors, we would kind of make fun, poke fun. And so for me to then come out to my family and go, oh, I've had this experience with Jesus and now he's my guide and I do this stuff, was pretty, it was hard. And it was hard for me to accept it as well. And I actually just literally recently have come to the kind of philosophy, I guess, or the realization that maybe he chose me for that very reason, so that I haven't got all that stuff and that baggage, and that he can just come to me, and if he wants me to or if I can just go to him and say, hey, this spirit needs help, can you come on down and do your thing? And there's no none of that big stuff involved. It's just very simplistic and very simple.
So I'm not a psychic or a this or a that. I am an empath. But when I talk to you, I feel, honestly, this might sound creepy or weird to some people, but I honestly sense Jesus. It's such a strange thing to say. And
it's so funny.
Everything that you say is like what Jesus teaches in the Bible, and you've never read it.
No, I don't never read the Bible.
And so that to me is absolutely beautiful. And another question, so you're not Christian? Or...
No, I don't know any of that. I mean, like, I've been to people's churches. People have said, oh, come to my church. And I've sort of sat there and thought, that's nice, but no, it's not for me. I've got relatives who have religion. I've got Mormons in my family. But no, I don't feel, no. But, I love the fact that people have their faith, and it helps them, and it's that's cool. You go for it. I don't judge. I just sort of think that that's why I've sort of come to this, as I said recently, that I feel like there's a reason why he came to me in the way that he did. And I know that someone said to me, what's unusual with my NDE is that he didn't just come to me when I had like a spiritual kind of experience with him. He came to me while I was wide awake.
Yeah,
later
right.
on again. And so sitting with that for a long time was really uncomfortable. So I started reaching out as I started sort of putting my feelers out, and thinking I really need to actually start doing something with this, because
Mm.
I'm having all these experiences and I actually don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I went to who did I go? I went to a friend. I went on. Oh, yay! You got a call too. No,
Sorry.
you're all right. This is what Zoom's all about, isn't it? When your cat
Right.
walks across the screen and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, oh God, now I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Oh, and you can hear I take God's name all the time, and oh, terrible. I'm terrible. So, what was I saying?
When
Oh, yes. I went on an NDE website to sort of meet other people who've had NDEs and sort of look at what people were saying about it, and to just grow my confidence, because, you know, coming out, it's literally a big thing coming out. People will talk about this, that coming out spiritually, because that's how I put it, is coming out spiritually or coming out in this way. It's like coming out of the closet. It really is.
yeah.
It's big. It's really vulnerable. You get a lot of flack. You get a lot of people kind of poo-hooing it. You get people shut down right in front of you.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy. And so I went on this beautiful website and having a lovely time. It was really good for me. And then I met this wonderful person who's a hypnotherapist from the States, and he was writing a book called Beyond Death or something. And anyway, he and I've since become friends. And he said, "Oh, would you be in my book? Because I'm going to see what it's like to take a person who's had an NDE on a regression back to their NDE."
Wow. And did you do the regression?
I did. I did.
Yes.
I was like, "Whoa, I'm going to do this," because he said, if a lot of people come back and they've got questions. And I was like, yeah, I've got a question. And so one of my questions was, this is my whole point, is why did I not get a choice? Why was I suddenly back?
Right. Yeah.
And he said, we didn't give you a choice. And that's why I came back and saw you in ICU, and we gave you some healing. And I gave you this big load of love because we didn't give you a choice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that
So
was almost like here's a gift to you because we
yeah.
didn't give you a choice. So
Yeah.
take this
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. So here we
Wow.
did this for you. So that was really amazing. So
Oh,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
that's beautiful, Jodie. I really appreciate you coming on today. Honestly, it's a
Oh,
blessing to
thank
have you.
you.
And yeah, I know how hard it must be for some of you NDEers out there to share your story.
It
But I
is.
really do think that it's a blessing for you to be doing that, because there's people out there who have lost loved ones. You know, there's
Mm,
people who are scared of death, like myself. I had a
yeah.
fear of death, not
A lot of
so much anymore, which is
yeah.
thanks to you guys. But I
Mm.
mean, you're really helping people sharing these stories. So I appreciate you and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of people are scared of death. A lot of people
Mm,
are frightened of spiritual experiences, paranormal type experiences, because we've been trained and taught to feel that way,
mm.
particularly through scary movies.
Yeah, I was going to
And yeah,
ask you that as well. Did you find it scary? What was that like for you?
there are times still, even now, when you get a bit of a fright.
Mm,
And I would sort of go, oh, particularly at the start, and I would say to them, come to me in my dreams, because I felt more comfortable meeting them there. But as I got used to it, and as I had more experiences, I felt more comfortable.
yeah.
It's the feeling when a spirit actually comes to, like, they just walk in and they're there.
Mm,
It's a bit like a rush in the body. It's a really weird feeling, and it's internal, and it's very heart centered, so very chest heart centered for me personally. And so it can be quite overwhelming emotionally.
yeah, okay.
So when it happens, and it can happen at really unusual times, like I had one where I was in a meeting at work and it happened, and it can be kind of, you've got to really I can't blurt that out in a meeting. So I have to
Yeah.
wait and contain it and things like that. Yeah. So those sorts of things. But yeah, when they come in the middle of the night and they've touched me, or they've pulled the bed sheets, or they've just turned up beside my bed, and you can feel their energy, like their
Yeah.
energy, and they're kind of really keen to talk and tell you their message.
You're like,
That's
go
a
away, I just
lot.
want to sleep.
Yeah, well, it's like, whoa, I was just fast asleep. It's often I was
Yeah.
fast asleep and I suddenly wake up, but I used to also, and it hasn't happened for a while, but I used to also hear a funny noise when they came. So it's like someone had got a belt and hit it against the wall, and it would be like thwack. And others are just really gentle. Yeah, and sometimes they don't show you nice things. Some of the stuff they show you is not terribly nice. It can be a little
Yeah.
bit scary or a little bit gross. And I think that's what people get scared by. I also think there are types of energies that can be, like I said, denser. And so that can be very scary. They feel very
Heavy
and
you can feel it
tormented.
almost.
Yeah, absolutely can feel it.
Yeah,
Very, very,
okay.
very much so. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was in hospital just recently, actually, but again last year. And I was sort of in that, it's often when I'm in that dozy state where I'm sort of just kind of going to sleep, or just dozy, and
Yeah.
must be the right state for it. And I felt the skeleton hand hold my hand.
Oh,
And it felt really awful. Like I just
yeah.
really wanted this to let go. Like I was literally trying to, like, in my sort of state,
Yeah.
get it off,
Like
get
in your
off.
third eye vision or whatever they
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
like get off, yeah. And it just
Yeah.
felt so heavy and so bad. And it was a child, a boy. And when I woke up, I was woken up, and by this stage, and the staff were sort of administering to me. And so I kind of forgot. I put it to one side because I was too busy. And then I just couldn't get, I sort of started to feel really depressed, and I started to feel, I don't know how to describe it, just really down and heavy. And then suddenly I was lying there thinking, oh my God, this is not mine. This is not mine.
Yeah, like you're
I don't,
taking on someone else's
yeah,
energy.
I took on this other energy. So I got up and I went through to the family room, and it was a very sunny room. And I just sat there in the sun, and I just released it basically, and just tried to sort of give myself some time to let it go.
Yeah.
So things like that will happen because they're trying to make you feel how they feel. They want you,
Yeah.
they're so much trying to communicate with you
They want to
that
feel
they
felt and heard and understood, I think.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh.
it can be really sad. It can be really sad. And I get really frustrated by TV programs, particularly the one TV program that really annoys me is celebrity ghost stories. Have you seen that?
Oh, I don't really watch a
Oh,
lot of TV, but some people do talk about that and tell me that I
I
should watch it, but I
hate
don't know
it.
if I,
I hate it.
yeah,
I hate it with a passion, because the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking they've sensationalized it. They're scaremongering. They've
yeah.
made these poor spirits out to be as though they're trying to consume your
Like they're hiding
soul.
in a hole or a scary dark
Yeah.
place and they
What?
or like they're trapped in these old buildings type vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch
And
them because of that.
oh,
Yeah.
it's awful. It's awful. And
Yeah.
these celebrities will be telling a really nice story, and they'll make it scary. And you'll think,
Yeah.
but it's got a really nice ending to it. What do you like? And I get so angry because a lot of the times those spirits are trapped, and they're trying desperately to
Yeah.
communicate and say, help me, help me, help me. And
Yeah.
those people do nothing for them. Just like,
Yeah, have you ever somehow freed a spirit who's come to you? Like you remind me
mm.
of Alison Dubois from The Medium, the TV show. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, you
No.
you got it. She has dreams and she'll wake up,
Oh,
and every day she's a detective. So she's a psychic
hilarious.
medium detective, right? And she has
Oh,
dreams
wow.
and she'll sit up every day, and that's the next episode. What did she see, kind of thing? And she's out to find where this person was murdered and whatnot,
Oh, wow.
and solved mysteries that way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
you could do that. You never know.
I've only ever had one like that. And I
Yeah.
couldn't solve, there was no way I was going to solve it, but it was more about helping that spirit let go of their body that hadn't
Yes.
been found, and helping. So I seem to be more the one that helps them move on and go over to the light. And that's why I have Jesus
I was
there,
gonna say you're
because
like the earth version of Jesus. You're like the flesh part of Jesus working through him, or him working through you
him
to
working
help
through
them,
me. Yeah, it's nothing to
right?
do with me. It's all him if he wants to. And
Oh,
yeah, and I just say to him, oh, because he'll, I think he introduces me to them. He'll have some that he wants to particularly look after, and I can call on him to come and get them, and he seems to be able to bring them over.
yeah.
And it's really hard sometimes. It's not easy. But you know, I'm no medium in that I can suddenly just have it. Like I can't, you know, if you said to me, could you please contact, well, you come to me for a reading, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that yet. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really understand that, is that I cannot do that yet. It just happens when it happens. And I've started to try, and I've had a little bit of success, but I'm still learning that side of things. So just
If this
know that,
helps,
yeah.
if this helps you at all, I meditate. Have you done
Yes, I have
meditation?
tried and tried and
It's
tried to meditate.
not very
It's
easy.
really hard. But I had someone literally say that to me recently, and I read this because I used to think reading was cheating. And so I wouldn't look at anything because I thought, oh, then people are just going to think you're a complete charlatan, because you've read this book and now you're talking. You know, but actually, I've found 2 books that have helped me the most. Or I lie, actually 3. Echo Bodine is amazing. Her books are amazing. She's so
Okay.
down to earth, and there's no kind of me, I. And then the other one was a beautiful person called Savannah Arienta, Savannah Arienta, and she wrote a book called Light Worker Relationships. Oh, so good, so good. And it's all about caretaking yourself. So I highly
Yeah.
recommend reading that. And she talks about anxiety a lot, being an
Oh,
empath.
okay. I gotta write her name down again then.
Yeah, do.
So
Savannah.
Arienta.
So SAHVANNAH. Savannah
Arienta.
Arienta. Light
Awesome.
worker,
Thank
light
you.
worker relationships. Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. She really teaches you how to take care of yourself as an empath. And the other one was John, I think his name's John Graham, and he's from England, or no, Scotland, beg your pardon. And his book was amazing. It explained everything to me, and it was everything I'd been looking for. And so he talks about meditation a lot, and he's got all these meditations you can do, which I've still never actually done. But yeah, that I know now that that's the next stage. I need to start meditating and having quiet space, and yeah, but I'm still on the journey, so I still just developing.
I'm so excited for you. I really hope you succeed in your journey and your new
Thanks.
venture, and you like, yeah, I'm so excited for you. We have to keep in touch so I can ask you
Yeah,
questions.
I'd love it. I'd love it, because the more you keep in touch with people, the more you learn and you share and you grow, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Totally. And you know, too, I'm a person who doesn't, I started off just practicing my crystal readings because, and just saying to people, make a donation to an animal charity. But it's got so popular that I'm like doing so many, and they do take me a long time, and they're very different. They're not like a tarot card reading or anything like that. They're not future predicty type stuff. My crystal readings are very different in that they're about how you're feeling right now in this moment in your life. And you
Yeah.
might get a little bit of guidance from, I believe, the above, but you also get a little bit from me as well if I feel moved to in the reading.
Yeah.
And they're crystal because they're crystal cards. And I think they just help me channel a little bit. The cards just help me feel sort of like I can channel it a bit. And I don't charge a lot. That's my big thing, is I'm never going to charge a lot. So I just charge basically $60.
Well, for the viewers, Jodie, watching, did you want to let them know how to find you so they can get these readings for themselves and how to get in
Yeah.
contact with you?
Yeah, so I'm just on Jodie with Jody O'Meara. So it's a good Irish name. It's O apostrophe capital M-E-A-R-A, O'Meara. So Jodie O'Meara, and it's called, my Facebook page is called Spiritual Conversation.
Okay. Do you mind if I add you and I could link that information on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
So, you know, contact me there. I'm about having conversations, having chats, helping you with anything you're going through, grief, medical trauma, just relationships, anything really. I've lost babies myself. So baby loss, I get it. And yeah, anything really. I'm always up for a bit, and I'm up for sharing as well. So if anybody wants to share, like you know, Natalie, we're sort of connecting now. I just think that's what it's all about as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I'll link all that below, guys. So if you want to get in touch with Jodie, you know where to find her. But just before we go, what's something that you could leave the audience with, maybe a takeaway from your experience, like a message to us all? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this one's always hard.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it is really. I just think, you know, like I said earlier, and I've said this in previous interviews, I think we all are healers. We all do that in our life, go around healing each other. We're there for each other. And, you know, I'm not being all rosy and lovely and it's all about love. I'm just saying that, you know, you don't know how you've affected someone in their day. They could be having a really bad day, and just your smile and your kindness, or your letting them into the traffic, or helping them, you know, if they've dropped some stuff, or just saying hello, you know, anything like that can just lift someone so much. And in that way, we're all healers, I think. And my number one thing is self-compassion. I think not a lot of people know about self-compassion enough, and self-boundaries is so important, because we live our life looking outwards. You know, we're very much sort of, we look out and we're affected by what's happening to us, but actually what's happening inside us, and how we are doing, and how we're feeling is really, really important. And you should always honor yourself first.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful, Jodie.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. Thank you.
Hi, it's Natalie again. If you guys liked my last video, please like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit the notification bell so that I can notify you for future videos. Thanks again for watching. This is Natalie from NDE Talk, and I hope to see you again.